Welcome back to the layout. This is going to be a video on how I sort of change the couplers on my cars. I realize for many people this is sort of not a big deal and it's elementary and you already know how to change couplers. Probably better and more in depth and with more tricks and details than even I know. But for those of you who have maybe never taken apart some of your train stuff, you just put it on the tracks and it goes, and you know it's obviously expensive, so you're afraid that you might break something or you're not doing it right. Hopefully this video will fix that for you. In that case, maybe you had a train where a coupler broke, so now you have to replace it. That's probably the most likely scenario for someone viewing a video like this intentionally. But there are many reasons to change couplers. They can break, they might be the wrong ones, you might be switching to some other sort of thing. Stuff like that. I think some clubs mandate that you have certain couplers on just for reliability. I think that's probably the biggest thing is reliability or scale look. You know, you can get big couplers and smaller couplers. So I guess the most common couplers that should be replaced because they're awful are, well, let's see, I hate these kind of couplers. These are Easy Mate couplers by Bachmann, but they have, instead of a spring, they have a little plastic, so I can center this, a little plastic sort of spring, like a little leaf spring, right on the end here. You see that? Right here. There's a little leaf spring. And that's terrible because that wears out very quickly, or if you push on the coupler. So if you push a car, it forces that open and it stretches the spring. And then what happens is you'll have this coupler on a train, and then you'll stop it or slow down or something, and this coupler will sort of open up. And then when you go again, it won't grab the other thing, so that is bad. So then you'll end up with cars that are decoupling, and then you'll slam into them with the locomotive if you're not paying attention the next time it comes around, and then you'll have derailments or broken parts. So in general, you don't want your things to come uncoupled unless you're trying to with a magnet, but that's a completely different video situation or whatever. In my case here, I have these Walthers Bethgon coal porters, which are great. But they have their own sort of proprietary little coupler, which doesn't do anything. It just sits there and slides around. And you can't really couple to it. You can sort of stick it in there, but then it doesn't rotate or whatever. So those need to come out. Now I got a bunch of these Kadee. Let's see, what do we have here? It's a pack. Kadee 114, or no, Kadee 14, which is a 25 pair of 148 couplers. Now, I was pleasantly surprised, for some reason, when they talk about a pair of wheel sets, that means one rolling wheel, which I guess makes sense because there's two wheels. But with these couplers, there's 50 couplers in here, which wasn't too bad. So, yeah. Anyway, many Kadee couplers, the number 5 coupler, for example, comes with these little metal things, and they work as springs, which the coupler, like, just moves around in as a spring. But those are kind of annoying to work with. These are slightly more expensive, but I like them a lot more. They have little metal whiskers on them. Let's see if I can show you that. The white background might be easier to see. Where is the coupler? Of course my shadow gets in the way. There it is. They have little metal whiskers on them, which sort of do the same thing. They push in and they go out, and they're metal, and they're magnetic, and they just work well. The number 5 coupler is kind of the standard from what I've gathered in couplers, but this is basically a number 5, but without extra work. So that's that. So basically what I'm going to do here, and I don't have a car cradle. I probably should have one. So thankfully these cars are flat on top. But I'm just going to flip it upside down and get a screwdriver. You might want one of those. Work on pulling this truck out. So the truck is out. If you can leave the screw in, all the better to you. It's one less thing to lose. And then pull this little coupler pocket out. Very simple. The coupler will probably drop out. If you can avoid losing it, that's always good. But these things I don't really need because, as you can see, there's no centering mechanism on there. It's all just plastic, and it's kind of just a little coupler head, which doesn't couple to things. Well, there we go. So then we're going to take this coupler, which we want, and I'm going to set it in there. And since the car is upside down, remember you want this little thing to be pointing up. So set it in there, and we're going to pick up this little coupler cover. And this can be the tricky part. I'm actually going to let the screw out of there. Put the coupler back in, hold the cover on, and then with one finger hold that little coupler cover on, pocket, drop the screw in, stick it back in there until you're happy with the tightness, and then give the coupler a little flick and make sure it returns so that you don't have it too tight. And then just put the truck back on. And I tighten my trucks just to the point where it's a little bit stiff, and then I back it up about a quarter turn so that there isn't much like lateral rotation, but you are able to pivot it about the bottom. So now this car has the Kadee coupler in there. Just wipe back down again. Has the Kadee coupler in there, and it should couple right up to the other cars, which also. So that's good. Now the one thing that is kind of important. Let's see. Here we go. I'll grab another piece of track. I didn't mention this before, but coupler height is something to consider. And if you have the wrong coupler height, you're going to have coupler problems just because they'll come undone. So what they also make here, this is just another piece of track, as I'm sure you can see now. So that's rolling on there. And they make these things. I picked one of these up. It's a Kadee, the same people that make the coupler. And it's a coupler gauge. And now that I've thought about it, you probably don't need one of these, because once you get one coupler height good, they're pretty much all, you can just use that as a reference. But it's nice to have a control group, and I figure this might come in handy at some point, sometime. So basically, this is a little rig that you put the coupler in, and then you set it on the track. And as you can guess, you run the train up to it, and you check to see if the coupler heights match. And in this case, this one's good. So I'm going to flip this around real quick. And that matches it pretty well as well. It's basically perfectly level. So now I'll just send this on the track and couple it to the other ones. And as you can hear, these are all metal couplers, so they make a good metallic sound. And those all have metal parts and metal springs, so that's not going to wear anything out anytime soon. Whereas if they were plastic couplers, they probably would be worn out by now. So, very happy with that. Now, Athearn has, well, many companies have different types of couplers. That's a best case scenario where it's just a normal Phillips screw that you have to get off. But this is a little bit different. There's a flathead screw there. Then if you look on the coupler, and the coupler pocket or box, which is this thing. So this is your wheel set right here. This is the screw that you take out to take the wheels out. This, as you can see, doesn't have a screw there. It just sort of has that thing. So in this case, you would take the trucks off first. So there we go. The truck's out. Oh, drop the screw. Don't lose the screws. That's annoying. And there's this little metal clip. So you just want to pop that clip out, which sometimes is easy, sometimes takes a little bit of work. Just be patient with it and don't break anything. I'm good at breaking things. And I can tell you it's not fun and it becomes expensive. So there you go. As you can see, just kind of pry it along the edge. There's these little holes in there, and they just sort of slide on clips. So out comes this coupler, which is another one of these with the, right now you can kind of see it well. It has this plastic, there, you can hopefully see how that works. That little plastic spring just returns it. Of course, eventually that plastic spring gets worn out, as I've just broken it, and this doesn't work anymore. If you hold the coupler this way, it just hangs open. Nothing returns it back up. So this coupler is now useless and broken, and it will cause many problems. So away with it. And let's get a Kadee coupler, or actually this has very low set coupler pockets. So what I'm actually going to do here is get another coupler, and this is a plastic coupler. I think this is a new Bachmann Easy Mate, so they're not all bad, but this one has a metal spring on there. So I'll stick that in there. This also has an offset. Let me see if I can show you this. If you look at the cross section of this coupler, you'll see that the coupler head, or the knuckle, is centered about its shaft. Whereas if you look at this one, it's offset. In this case, it's offset up. So this coupler will sit higher than a normal coupler would, which is good because this car usually has low set couplers. And that, see when we get to leveling everything out here. So go ahead and put it back on. Just stick the coupler in there. Make sure you don't have any of the plastic bits stuck out on the side. Just push down on that clip nice and hard. It'll snap into place, and your coupler will be in. Again, check to make sure it returns to its normal position. And then we'll put the truck back on. Now, I don't know how well if this is actually going to work here, but we'll see. I'm optimistic. It's easy to get into a mindset saying, well, I'll just line up cars that, it all works as a train so that the couplers line up. And you could do that, but it's so much nicer to have every coupler the same height. And then if something gets undone, you just push it back together and it all works. So I'm going to check the coupler height on this one. And it lines up pretty well, sorry. It might just be a little bit low yet. So even though we used that extra special coupler, it's a little bit low. So the one last thing you can do, I'm sure there's many more things you can do. You could replace the trucks. But this little gauge that I ordered, this thing, came inside with some things, which are very exciting. Pour those out here. Came with couplers to use because you're going to need those. But it also came with these little rings, and these are washers. And I'm sure you could use regular washers maybe, although these ones are fiber and maybe they have less friction or something. The idea with these washers is you raise the truck a little bit, and that will also raise that side of the car, and it'll raise the coupler. So you just sort of set it on top there of your wheel thing. And they can be a pain to put on, I found. Yeah, see? Not good. There we go. Once that's on there, as you can see, it sort of raised it a little bit. So I'm going to stick this wheel on again. And I'm sorry I don't have a great camera angle for this. I have no idea where my tripod went, but so there we go. The wheel's on and loose. Not too loose. So we'll slide this up here again. Put the coupler gauge in. And it's perfect. It's right on. So that's what we want. This is pretty much all there is to replacing couplers. Just be careful. Look at the coupler box. See exactly how you think it's supposed to come off. And then think again. And make sure you're still thinking the same way. That's probably the biggest thing. Just not breaking anything when the coupler box comes off. And then you got these trucks. The other thing is, if you have detail parts on the top of your car, and you care about them, which you should, don't break them. So get a little cradle or something. That's probably the best thing to do. I really need to get one of those. And then just check every end of your little gauge and make sure it all lines up properly. But that's pretty much all there is to it. So let's see. I'll get the two cars that I just did. Here we go. Look at this. Well, there isn't going to be a satisfying metal sound because one of them is plastic, but I think Kadee does make. That's what these are Kadee couplers. They're kind of the golden standard, I think, or they're just the best. I like them. I've never had one break on me. I have lost the spring. That's the other thing. Don't lose the spring in those couplers. But there you go. These couplers will work now. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask or comment or email or something. Otherwise, good luck and